Center for the Ethiopian Educational Information and Communication Technology presents Educational Satellite Television Programs.
Hello, teacher. Hello, students. Welcome to today's lesson on graphs of functions. You have already learned how to graph a mathematical relation. In today's lesson, you will learn how to draw the graphs of linear functions. You will also study some of the important properties of these graphs. Are you ready, students? Let us get started. Before we begin to draw graphs, we must first define the term linear function. Let us say that A and B represent two fixed real numbers. When A is not equal to 0 and x belongs to the set of real numbers, then f of x equals ax plus b is called a linear function. You have already seen some linear functions, students. F of x equals 2x plus 1 is a linear function, where a equals 2 and b equals 1. A linear function is also a relation. It can be described as R equals the ordered pairs x, y, such that y equals ax plus b, where x and y are both elements of the set of real numbers. In order to draw the graph of the function, we must first evaluate the function. Can you recall how to evaluate functions, students? For f of x equals 3x plus 2, f of 1 equals 5, f of 2 equals 8, and so on. To graph a linear function, we evaluate the function at selected points from the domain, and then we use these points to draw the graph. Let us try an activity, students. Consider the linear function f of x equals 3x minus 5. Evaluate the values of the function for the x values in this table. Then plot these points in a coordinate system to draw the graph of the linear function.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello, students. Your table should include these values of the function corresponding to the x values. Your graph should resemble this one. The point furthest to the left is at the xy coordinates -3, -14. The point furthest to the right is at the xy coordinates 3, 4. How did you do, students? I am sure that you did not find this activity too difficult. We can observe several properties from the graphs of linear functions. If f of x equals ax plus b, a is called the coefficient of x. A is also the slope of the graph of the linear function. For instance, in the activity you just completed, f of x is equal to 3x minus 5. The value of a, the coefficient, is 3. 3 is also the vertical distance between each of the points on the graph. If the coefficient a is greater than 0, then the graph of the linear function is increasing. If the coefficient a is less than 0, then the graph of the linear function is decreasing. Students, if a equals 0, what does this tell you about the graph of the function? Please take a moment to write down your answer.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello, everyone. If the coefficient is 0, then f of x will always equal b, no matter what the value of x is. This means that the graph will be a horizontal line. F of x equals b is called a constant function. There is more to be learned by examining the linear function. If x equals 0, then f of 0 equals b. This means that 0b lies on the graph of the function, and the graph passes through the ordered pair 0b. This point is called the y-intercept because it is the point at which the graph intersects the y-axis. Students, please look at your table of values and graph from the activity. For the function f of x equals 3x minus 5, the b value is negative 5. You can see on your table and on your graph that when x equals 0, f of x equals negative 5. The point on the graph where your line intersects the y-axis is negative 5. Now we know that in the linear function f of x equals ax plus b, a is the slope of the graph and b is the y-intercept. How do we find the x-intercept? If f of x equals 0, then x equals negative b over a. This means that the line of a graph will pass through the ordered pair negative b over a0. We have time for one more activity, students. Without completing a table of values, draw the graph of this function by determining the x and y intercepts and the slope. You may begin.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up! Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, students. The first step in solving this activity is to arrange the equation so that it is in the form of a linear function. 4 plus 2y equals 4x becomes 2y equals 4x minus 4. We can simplify this by dividing everything by 2. Y equals 2x minus 2. Now we can see that the slope is 2. Negative 2 is the y-intercept, and 1 is the x-intercept. Your graph should have points at 1, 0, and 0, negative 2. Did your graph look like this one? Great work, students. Today, we learned how to define and graph a linear function. We studied the coefficient of a linear function, and we learned how to find the x and y intercepts. Until the next lesson, thank you, teacher. Thank you, students.